Nadine, welcome to IMpower. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know you're passionate about what tech can do in this industry, and obviously that's a key topic here at IMpower. We're hearing a lot about tech innovation and particularly AI. So what's your view on the state of play at the moment in the industry?
So I'm a true believer technology can solve almost everything. I think the evolution of AI is really exciting. It will help us push forward on making progress on a lot of different fronts, especially when you look at the entire investment cycle from front to middle to back. I think AI will enrich it. There's also a lot of talk about potential job losses, which is something that we need to think through, but there's also exciting new opportunities that will come forward. So we tend to focus more on the tokenization component, and I think really AI will provide the impetus, if you will, to allow people to think through their use cases, how to adapt to these new technologies. So I think there's a fairly exciting new world ahead of us, and we all need to do our part to try to push it forward.
You talked there about doing your part. How do you feel this industry is embracing this? Because in the past there has been a bit of a reluctance to change in what is a very sort of institutionalised industry. So what do you see in terms of true adoption?
I think the resistance to change first, and then we'll push on adoption. I mean, this is a fairly lucrative industry, and usually you don't want to break something that works. But I think the advancement of technology, the change in demographics we talked about earlier about the shift in wealth, we're actually living through the largest shift in wealth that we've seen in a generation. And this new generation coming out is, we call the TikTok generation. So the way they consume financial products will be totally different. So they're looking at mass customization. They're looking at everything to be digital. And they also care very deeply about issues around climate and other social issues. So the way we've done things in the past will be very hard to be able to cater to that level of mass customization at reasonable fees, and I believe the technology will help create more efficiency, be able to give the consumer what they're looking at, and also give them an amazing experience as they do so. It is very, very hard to do that in an environment, in an industry today where we tend to operate on platforms that are 50, 60 years old. We're very stuck in one way of doing things. So the innovation that this new generation of technology is creating is an opportunity, not a threat. So people need to get comfortable that sometimes there'll be erosion of revenues. They're going to have to self-cannibalize to a certain extent, but to emerge stronger with a different business model, hopefully a more exciting and more widely accessible business model.
And how specifically do you think AI will play into that?
So I think AI on a lot of different fronts will just, I think, augment the human interaction here, be able to allow these fund management houses, custody houses, investment banks, really more bandwidth and more capacity to think through how these operating models will change. But I think either to the consumer to be able to walk them through that change, to make the consumer, give them more choices, more informed choices, educational, and really help us think through issues that we've never been able to process. I mean, when you think about the enormous amount of information AI can look at and process, there's a limitation to the human brain, and being able to use AI to augment that, to me, is fascinating.
It's going to streamline and improve things for the end user.
Absolutely. I think it will give them an amazing client experience, but it's got to be used in a responsible and well thought out way. AI on its own isn't going to do anything, so you still need that human interaction. But I think the partnership between AI and the human brain, I think will just produce phenomenal results.
You sort of touched on it there. What are the challenges and are there risks around AI, and what are we doing to kind of make sure that there's the right regulation in place, there's the right parameters for making sure that the end user at the end of the day is protected too?
Yeah, I think some of the, listen, there's risks in everything, right? And I think over time we'll learn what they are. It's still very nascent. So you've got the naysayers going, oh my God, right? Like the robots are going to raise and they're going to erase the human race. I don't think that's going to happen at all. And then on the flip side, though, I think there's a lot that we need to learn. Now, some of the risks, you read about them all the time, right? It's around identity, it's around everything that we do, right? There's good and bad. So yes, there's potential increase for fraud and impersonation and all these bad things that we read about in the press. I think on the flip side, I'm hoping that the good outweighs the bad here. The regulatory framework will come, but it's slow, right? Like our regulators will examine all facets of the risks and hopefully come out with regulations that make sense. We saw in Europe, like they're speeding to come up with AI regulations. I just think it's too early. I think they can provide guidance. But on the flip side, I don't agree with the people saying, okay, let's put a moratorium and look at AI. I think we need to work with it, better understand it, and then hopefully reasonable people do reasonable things, and hopefully we'll get to a good stage.
You did mention a moment ago tokenisation. Just sort of shifting to that now, what do you think, where are we at with that, and how quickly do you think that's going to cause a transformation in the way business is carried out in this industry?
Tokenization is advancing, but we're still in this proof of concept phase. So if you look every single day, somebody goes, hey, look at us, we tokenized the bond or we tokenized an issuance. And I think that's great because it's proving the proof of concept. I think we need to move now away from proof of concept to more broader use of the technology. So one of our clients, WisdomTree Prime, for example, is now launching either like soon their new digital platform. It's one of the first regulated funds in the US that got approved by the SEC to launch digitally on a tokenization platform. And I think as people start to be able to really use it, try it, see that it's more cost efficient, it's more transparent, it's more accessible, that user experience hopefully will start to propagate. Tokenization also is wonderful for illiquid securities because it allows more access, more democratization of an asset class that typically was only accessible to either institutional investors or very high net worth individuals, so private equity or real estate. So we're seeing a lot more of that. Over time, it has a promise, same thing, it's very new, so there's what we project and there's what reality will be, but it promises more liquidity, it promises better costs, you can trade 24/7, you can settle atomically. So when you think about it, think of how much the industry is spending in time and money and energy right now to move into T+1, when we do have the technology today to allow us to settle instantaneously. So we're on a journey, but it's going to take a bit of time to get adoption. But I think that would happen as we move from proof of concept. But listen, it's going to append a lot of existing business models that work just fine, right? But this is now taking it to the next level. But you need to start, we need to build the infrastructure, you need to build the ecosystem and put that same trust in an environment that's brand new, that in a capital markets infrastructure that serves us extremely well for decades.
It really does feel, from what you're saying there and your earlier answers, that we're at that tipping point now, and it's a very exciting but quite daunting time for very traditional managers, isn't it?
It is. I mean, even me on a personal basis, I left a very well-established organization and jumped headfirst into a startup that's really trying to change those dynamics. There are firms that have the strength of their convictions. WisdomTree is one of them, where they did establish WisdomTree Prime, and they're out there trying to conquer the world with their digital technologies. There's some that are not as, they like it, but they're going to take a wait and see. And listen, most, whether you're a bank or a fund manager, you get paid to manage risk. So you're not going to move, you're not going to be a first mover. Sometimes being a fast follower is not a bad thing. But I do believe, like in the next 18 months, we'll see hopefully a bigger pivot in that area. And then the combo of technology and AI, I'm super fascinated about that. And I think that could be the winning combination.
It sounds like an exciting time that you're genuinely very positive about. And do you feel that you're ahead of the game in terms of where your peers are at, or are people really catching on to this now?
I really do believe Securrency is at least 5 or 6 years ahead of everybody else, but that doesn't matter if we can't get adoption and we can't prove the benefit of that technology. In order to do so, we do need the industry to rally. We need standards, we need interoperability, we need the regulation, at least in our situation. We embrace the current regulations. We built something called the compliance-aware token framework. So we actually can take all the rules and regulations and embed them in the token. in my very non-technical way, it's really putting the system in the token and allow it to operate in a. So we're trying to, at least from our perspective, we're trying to do what we can to facilitate both adoption and distribution. But one firm alone can't build an ecosystem. We need others to join us onto that journey.
You're kind of making people feel comfortable with it.
We're trying, and the fact that we've got the first set of 40 Act regulated funds, which is the highest level of regulated funds, at least in the US, got approved by the regulators. If you think about it, the first one took us 3 years to get it done. The next one gets now approved by the normal standards. That means, at least in the US, the regulators are comfortable with all the controls and the processes that we've been able to build on that technology to ensure investor protection as well as compliance with rules and regulations. So there's a path forward. We just need people to jump on the bandwagon, and we're trying to do. So this gathering here is amazing because you have access to all the movers and shakers, and as you sort of evangelize the benefits of tokenization in AI, people are excited, but now we've got to move enthusiasm into action, and then we'll see where it goes.
Well, you're certainly spreading your enthusiasm.
Well, I'm
Nadine.
trying.
Thank
I'm
you so
trying.
much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for joining
much.
us. Great to
My
talk to
pleasure.
you.
Thank you so much.